Hey climbers, it's Ryan Mullen here and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about a very recent topic that's prevalent in the autism community right about now, and that is Spectrum 10K. So for those of you who don't know, Spectrum 10K is a project based in Cambridge, UK, led by Borat's cousin. I actually heard of this project on my holiday last month in August, but I chose not to do some proper research on it until I got back home so that I could form a proper opinion on this topic. So I'm a little bit late really to be talking about this stuff, but there are things that need to be said. Now, I believe in freedom of choice, so naturally I have no issue if people do participate in Project Spectrum 10K, but personally it's not something that I would participate in, and it's not something that I would support. And I personally believe that it's going to do more harm than good for the autistic community, so this is why I'm going to talk about it in this video. Apologies for this video not being a creativity inspired video, but this project could negatively affect the whole community. In a nutshell, the aim of Spectrum 10K is to basically find the causes of autism. And I understand why. There are many mysteries surrounding autism, and there are a lot of questions that haven't been answered yet by scientists. So in theory, I would love to know the answer. I would love to know the genetic and environmental factors that cause autism. And this question has been baffling scientists for decades. But how they intend to do it is why I believe that this project is harmful. So basically, their aim is to get 10,000 participants, and they are going to send those participants a DNA testing kit box, I would assume, that has a tube in it that allows them to submit a saliva sample, which the participant will then send back to Spectrum 10K. And Spectrum 10K are going to use those 10,000 saliva samples to potentially determine the causes of autism. And they've invited blood relatives of autistic people to also participate to see if there are any genetic factors. And the interesting thing about this is you could potentially see how far autism could go down your family tree. And the idea behind that, I think, is very interesting. In theory, this does sound interesting and worthwhile, but in practice, it sounds absolutely disastrous. And here is my opinion as to why I think this. The key word in all of this is DNA. This is something that can be genetically modified or edited, and a place like Cambridge University would definitely have technology with that potential. The Spectrum 10K website has stated time and time again that it is strongly against curing autism and eugenics and so on and so forth. But I have two issues with this. First, we were told in the online Conservative manifesto that national insurance would not go up, and they have voted to up national insurance. So why are we believing things that are on the website if our own government can say one thing and then do the opposite? Secondly, even if they genuinely do not believe in eugenics but still find genetic causes of autism, or in layman's term, the autism gene, the limits for other projects around the world are endless. If they can find scientific causes of autism, they could sell or give this data to companies around the world, and those companies could potentially actively engage in eugenics. And when I say eugenics, what I mean by this is removing the autism gene from people's DNA, or looking for cures for autism, or finding ways to tell if autism is prevalent in unborn babies, so that parents can have the choice as to whether or not they want to abort the autistic baby. Now, I'm not going to accuse Spectrum 10K of any of this, because the project has only just started and we don't know what the results will be yet. But these are the genuine possibilities if they find substantial results. And this could essentially remove autistic people from not only society, but the whole world. And there are a million advantages of having autism in our world and in our societies, but that's a separate topic for a completely separate video. I also have some other issues with Spectrum 10K besides the possible outcomes of the project. So, for example, the website states that you must have a formal diagnosis of autism. But if you apply to participate online and they send you sample packs in the post, how are they actually going to know if you've had a diagnosis or not? This means anyone could potentially take advantage of this system, regardless of if autism runs in their family or not, or even if you have autism or not. This would hugely impact the results because they would be tampered with by idiots that just want to get those sample packs from online and use it just because, well, they can. Another issue with asking for a formal diagnosis is that would potentially be okay if it were even easy to get a diagnosis in the first place. There are millions of people across the UK with obvious autistic traits but haven't had the diagnosis that they need for various reasons. This could be because they are female, or possibly because they come from a background in which autism isn't studied by scientists, and therefore psychologists don't have the knowledge to diagnose them even though they have these obvious traits. You can blame most of this on Hans Asperger, who only experimented with white males in the 1940s. But this means that many people have been informally self-diagnosing themselves and have been left unsure as to what's really going on in their brains, because people like this haven't been linked to autism that often. Back to Spectrum 10K. Asking for a formal diagnosis basically means that they are stopping so many potentially autistic people from taking part in this project, which would aim to find the causes of autism. This basically means, therefore, that the vast majority of participants would be from white males and their families. This therefore means that the results of this project would be biased and therefore inaccurate. Why? Because the results don't cater for a big chunk of the potentially autistic population. And their website states that 700,000 people in the UK are autistic. That number would be a lot higher if people were actually getting diagnosed formally, which would give Spectrum 10K a vast variety of samples to work with. They basically claim that anyone with an autism diagnosis can apply to participate, regardless of age or gender or race or whatever. But this cannot happen if people are not getting diagnosed formally by psychologists, which is one of their requirements in the first place. Then you have the issue of adoption, which is fine for the autistic individual, but if the company wants blood relatives taking part, then their families cannot take part because they're not blood relatives, unless they do what I suggested earlier, which is to take advantage of the system. But that would lead to the results being tampered with. This is the largest study of autism in the UK ever, but it has so many flaws in its plan and has the potential for catastrophic effect. Regardless of if the company actually engages in these results or not, they may not, and that's fair enough. But it has the potential for these effects. And if they sell this information to companies that actively engage in eugenics, then this is a capitalist, ableist nightmare. And the website states that they have links to the University of California. So if Spectrum 10K gives or sells their results to them, they can create eugenics for the whole world. And then people around the world will blame it on America, even though their findings were run by a British project. This could harm our relationship with the states in the future, and it basically seems like a suspicious way of saying it's not our problem. America created the eugenics, even though we gave them the findings to be able to do so. Then on top of that, we have the issues with comorbidities with autism, such as ADHD, epilepsy, depression, bipolar, etc., etc. This is an interesting topic to research in theory, but if these are the possibilities for autistic people, then these are the possibilities for people with all disabilities, all mental health issues, etc., etc. This is an ableist way of essentially eradicating disabled and mentally ill people from our societies. Now, I see that Paddy McGuinness has supported this project. For those of you who may live in other countries, Paddy McGuinness is a comedian and TV presenter based in the UK, but he's not autistic, so I doubt that he has the attention to detail to see the long-term impacts of this project. But he supports it, which gives the media enough reason to want to promote it, which can then only further misinform the general public. The unfortunate thing is, I like Paddy McGuinness. I think he's a very funny comedian and TV show host, but I think he is misguided and ill-informed, and this project doesn't deserve backing from somebody as popular as Paddy McGuinness. Now, I don't think he really wants to eradicate autism, and I do think he means well, and I think he has good intentions, but I still think he needs to look at the bigger picture in a lot more detail. If this is how we find out about the causes of autism, then to be honest with you, I would rather not know. Now, I understand that autism could potentially be genetic, so I understand why we would need DNA to research it. But after they've researched it, the DNA is still there to be edited. This is all under the assumption that the project even works, because it might not even work in the first place. But if it does work, then it'll only work for a fraction of the autistic community. Their aim is inclusion, but the execution, if any, will be division. Now, what can autistic people or families do to help? Literally anything but support or participate in this project. Look at the project's leader, Simon Baron-Cohen. He has a history of pointless autism research that has had no positive impact on the community. If anything, his sexist and pointless theory on the male brain has only caused more criticism and division. So we shouldn't even let him consider using 10,000 DNA samples. But instead, if you're UK based, you can write to your local MPs and you can ask them to oppose this project on the grounds of disability and mental health division, and instead ask them to fund more inclusive accommodations for autistic people. This could include better education services, better hospital facilities, better tools to help them in the workplace, more inclusion in society, more research into autism for all backgrounds so that people can get diagnosed properly, and the list really does go on. We could train employers to recognize autism and its advantages in employees, so that autistic people can actually get jobs and contribute towards our economies. Because at the moment, most, not all, but most employers still see disabled people as unable to work, even though we have our own unique and, to be honest, unorthodox ways of working. But if they work, they work. But again, I can talk about this in a separate video. Even if you're not UK based, you can still write to your local politicians or councils and tell them, do not allow the UK's research or its findings in our country. As I've previously said, Spectrum 10K has links overseas. So if we stop them from using other countries as bases for potential eugenics, maybe the world might start to realise that this idea is terrible for autistic people around the globe. And to be fair, if they wanted to improve the well-being of autistic people and families, they wouldn't ask for DNA. It is that simple. Once you include DNA in any form of biological research, it opens doors. Some potentially good, some potentially bad. But I would advise you and urge you to strongly oppose Spectrum 10K. Opposing 10K would save thousands, if not millions of lives around the world, because if Spectrum 10K had their way, this could potentially be the end of disability. My generation could potentially be the last autistic generation if we allow this project to go ahead. And we can actually work better than non-autistic people sometimes. It's just that we don't get the recognition for it. And we all need to use our voices, literally or online if you're non-verbal. It's just something for us all to think about, I guess. Well, that's it for this video, guys. If you found it informative, then please give it a like, a comment, and share it with your loved ones. While you're there, please subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell down there so that you don't miss a single video. Please follow me on my social media and visit my official website if you enjoyed this video. And if you want to see more of my online content, the links to these are all in the description below. My music is also in that description box below, so if you enjoyed this video, please consider checking out my music as well. My acoustic music is more on my Facebook page, and my dance and hip hop tracks are more on my Spotify. And if you're a creative climber like me, then please send me your work. The links to my social medias for that are once again in the description box below. And if this is your first time here on my channel, then welcome. I'm glad you're here. I really hope you come back soon. And finally, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next Wednesday at 3 PM UK time for a brand new video. Keep climbing high, guys. Ciao for now. I've been Ryan Mullen from Creative Climbers. Peace and love.